We looked at what was happening in seniors care, the seniors care sector today. So, right, there's the ongoing challenges of increasing resident acuity. There's continued labor shortages. There are funding challenges. I mean, these are not new things. It's just that it's a little bit deeper and it just seems harder because it's not changing. And so what does that do? That means that people feel tired, they feel grumpy, they might feel a little overwhelmed, which can lead to all sorts of problems, including safety challenges for residents and for staff. And for those of you in home care, just for the folks that you are supporting. We did notice, though, that some leaders and some organizations, yes, they have these problems. And how they navigate these issues, it can actually be pretty inspiring. So they're gracious, they're wise, they bring the better out of people, even in the midst of all that. So, how do they do that? So, a lot of it is social intelligence. So, that's where we are going in the 2024 Conversations with Leaders series. So, let me just give you a little bit of context or kind of the whole story. If you haven't seen kind of the list of what we'll be doing, so this is our kickoff or introduction talking about what social intelligence is. Next month, we'll be looking at what happens when there is a deficit of social intelligence. It shows up often with incivility, so we'll be talking about that and, of course, what to do with it. In November, our conversation will be about an abundance of social intelligence. That's where you can have psychological safety. And then starting off next year with a safety surprise. We'll be wrapping up the conversation with leaders and starting with surprise. So very exciting. So that's kind of the bigger picture. Let's look at what we're talking about today. We're going to be introducing kind of what exactly is social intelligence and why is it relevant for what you folks do? Why is it relevant for the sector? And how does it fit with safety? And then the question that we're all kind of curious about. So, yes, what about myself? What about my team? What about our social intelligence? Where are we at? And how can we grow it if it's an issue? Because it's actually a good thing for everybody to have lots of it. And then, of course, how can Safe Care help? So that is where we're going, which is all very exciting. And recognize that you all have a lot on the go. So I'm imagining that you were probably not sitting around eating bonbons, just kind of waiting for today. You were probably getting a lot of things done. You probably have a lot of stuff waiting for you. And sometimes when we arrive at things like this, our bodies are here, our minds, not so much. We're thinking about the past, the future. So we're going to experiment with an activity to more fully arrive so that our body and mind are in the same place at the same time. We'll just give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. So if you can, just have your feet flat on the floor. You can put your hands on your lap. Just going to ask you to be in a posture. Don't worry, this isn't like a long thing. It's just super short. And if you can be in a posture that has you feel both relaxed and alert, you're welcome to close your eyes or cast your gaze downward. It's just so that you're not distracted visually. And all we're going to do is take 3 breaths and we're going to do them in a kind of a particular way. So if you can, take a deep breath in, making your tummy go big, and holding for a moment or 3, and then exhaling, letting your tummy go flat or as flat as it can go. Let's do that again. Taking another deep breath in, breathing all the way down to your toes, and holding for a moment or 4, and have a nice long exhale, preferably longer than your inhale. And let's do that one more time, taking another deep breath in, breathing down to your toes, making your tummy go big, holding it, and then another nice long exhale. Beautiful. And then just opening your eyes, returning to the room whenever it feels right. So, taking this kind of breath, pausing, being present to what's happening in this moment, that's kind of what social intelligence is about. So let's talk about that. I'm going to give you kind of the essentials, the principles, the foundations of what social intelligence is. So you've likely heard about emotional intelligence. So you can think of social intelligence as kind of being a subset of that. It's our social radar that kind of helps us achieve goals, whether they're individual goals or whether they're organizationally valued goals. and helping us achieve those goals in a social situations, i.e., when you're around other people. So researchers, they aren't in complete agreement about what exactly social intelligence is, but they do agree that this social radar thing has two bits to it. So there's this cognitive, kind of the thinking part. It's our social awareness, it's our social literacy, it's our ability to read situations, our ability to understand our own and others' feelings, their thoughts, and our own feelings and thoughts and behaviors, right, in interpersonal situations. So that's kind of the cognitive piece, the awareness piece. But then there's that other part, that's the behavioral part. That's the effective social action, our ability to act appropriately with that understanding, and our ability to promote and build meaningful relationships in our buildings, the people that we work with, and also in our lives. Now, I want to be clear that social intelligence, it's different from empathy, which is another component of emotional intelligence. But social intelligence is actually more than empathy. Empathy is our ability to kind of tune into others or feeling comfortable with others. It doesn't necessarily require a deep understanding of the broader social context, and it doesn't necessarily require managing relationships effectively. It also doesn't necessarily mean that you're aware of what's happening inside you. It just means that you're connecting with somebody you might be totally there. Social intelligence, it's about how we interact in various social settings. It's about attuning to others and them having that sense that you are attuning to them. So I like this definition. It comes from Daniel Goleman. He popularized the idea of not only emotional intelligence, but also social intelligence in this particular book, Social Intelligence. He says that it's about being intelligent, not just about relationships, but when you're in them. So it's about acting wisely in human relationships. And our understanding of social intelligence, it's evolved plenty actually, specifically in the past couple of years because of breakthroughs in technology, in neuroscience. That's why Goleman wrote the book, because with MRI technology, scientists can actually see what happens in our brains when we're with people. They can actually see what transpires as people interact and what happens in their brains as they look beyond their narrow self-interest to others' best interests as well. It's all very intriguing. So what scientists found, kind of the biggest learnings, is that we are wired to connect, and that's literal. So we have these neurons, mirror neurons, and these cells, they have us reflect back an action that we observe in somebody else. It actually has us mimic somebody's action, or at least have the impulse to do so. And we're not, of course, necessarily aware. This is all kind of neurological. It's all like, in our subconscious, our non-conscious. So what makes emotions contagious, which all this, it makes emotions contagious so that we catch strong emotions. Our brains couple through feedback loops, we kind of form this interbrain circuit. So we feel others' minds versus think them. And that's what rapport is about. It's when we feel in sync with others. There's this mutual, this shared attention. There's in simpatico. And what's happening is that there's this literal neural bridge between us through our mirror neurons and other neuroscience. And you've seen this in action, right? Whether it's with couples, you see people that are, deeply in love, they're connected, they know, right? Family members, people, your family, and you probably felt it, maybe yourself, right? Whether it's with colleagues at work, maybe with your own friends, with families, whichever. So there's this well coordinated non-verbal duet that's happening. The pace, the timing of the conversation, you can see it, right? And we've experienced it. People are, there's animated or they're not so animated, the body movements, the whole thing. What's interesting is that connection is pretty powerful. The more that we are in sync, the more we have that rapport, the more positively we feel about the encounter and each other, which makes possible lots of great things. It makes it possible for us to be creative together, to be more productive together, to be more efficient in our making decisions. So that's kind of what some of the things that it makes possible. So is this idea, this, wisdom about relationships, about being wise, not just when you're about them, but when you're in them, is it relevant in seniors care? Well, you decide. I think it does. Because when you have social intelligence, that ability to have rapport, to have connection with others, what does it mean? It means that you know what's really going on with people. right? You kind of, you know what's happening versus, kind of having that sense something's happening, but I don't know what it is. Or being totally oblivious to stuff that's going on and then kind of being blindsided. So you're aware as opposed to that. It also has you be able to predict others' behavior, not in a weird way. It's just that you kind of, people, you know how they're going to be. And it has your conversations achieve what you want because you can quickly and easily get on good terms with new people. This isn't about being an extrovert. It's about being able to kind of clue in what's going in with people. Yes, you can be an extrovert, but what I'm suggesting is that it's not about that. It's about your social intelligence. It has you be able to establish rapport even and especially with difficult people and or in difficult situations. It has you be able to easily get support from key people because you know how to influence them. It's not about manipulating. It's just that you can read them, you can kind of read the situation, you know what's important to them. So what do you think? Social intelligence, does it seem like it's helpful? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Let's take a look. See if, yeah, all right. I'm just going to look. Any thumbs up? Yeah. Anybody else? Any thumbs down? It's okay. All right, got it. All right. So this thing about social intelligence, it is not just about you. Your teams also need to be able to do this. So this is a report from the US military. Yes, I know you're thinking, what? That's not relevant. Well, I don't know. It was developed by a whole bunch of smart people from think tanks and things. They were talking about what they need from their teams for 2025 and beyond. It seems pretty accurate for what's needed in the world in general and specifically in seniors care today. You need to have cohesive teams that are going to be about improving, that they can thrive in ambiguity and chaos. I don't know. They be able to, adapt to diversity and complexity, which kind of seems what's happening in the sector. They need to be able to generate and process the right kinds of information and again, solve complexity and rapidly changing problems. What they found is that, okay, so this is what teams need to be able to do. How do you do that? These very smart people all decided, yes, social intelligence is the thing because people need to be able to communicate effectively and be able to build relationships in order to achieve all the things. So, yes, I think social intelligence is relevant as well in seniors care today. All very interesting. But what does this have to do with safety? I'm not a safety expert, but there are people who are, specifically safety in healthcare. So I found a couple of recent studies, and here's what they found. This was the bottom line that there's a significant, and so these were studies done with nurses in emergency and also in neonatal. So it wasn't in seniors care. I think it's still relevant, but you decide. They found a significant positive relationship between social intelligence and patient safety culture. And we know that a patient safety culture requires an employee safety culture. So, all right, how does it do that? Well, let's first agree on what a safety culture is. So, again, this comes from people way smarter than me. They define the safety culture as an organization's shared values and beliefs about safety being important, right? And then how those values and beliefs show up within kind of the broader organizational structure. And it's really about behavioral norms and how you make decisions. And when you have this emphasizes that contribution from all employees is important, not just employees in professional safety roles. And when you have a safety culture, you see this day to day, including when things are hard, when people are stressed, like during a pandemic that's really hitting the people that you care for, or when you're short staffed, or when there's funding challenges, all those things. So it we know that there's this relationship between safety and social intelligence. How does social intelligence help that happen? Well, we saw this in the US military thing, that right where there's this the culture piece. We know that the social intelligence is going to impact your leadership and your team dynamics because as a leader, you set the tone, you model good behavior, you create that positive emotional contagion. You create that with your team, but also within your team. You connect with them and you foster that psychological safety, which we'll be talking about in our November conversation. You also, social intelligence helps you communicate in a way that resonates so that there's this enhanced communication, which is kind of important because communication is the backbone of safety protocols. And then emotions often fuel conflicts that jeopardize safety. So social intelligence helps you establish rapport, even and especially with difficult people, difficult situations. It also has you consider the emotional impact of decisions. You notice what's happening with people, right? That whole thing about not being blindsided, cluing in with what's going on. So you make decisions that are attuned to people's needs and aspirations. And finally, you recognize the emotional cues indicating discomfort so that you can manage risk. So, what do you think? We were going to ask, so here's the poll. Kajal's going to be putting up the poll. So, how important do you think social intelligence is for safety? So, on a scale of 1 to 5, or 0 to 5, or 0, it's like, nah. 5 is yep. Yep. Oh, so let's see. Fascinating. So, we're just going to wait. Anybody else going to be putting in their responses? So it seems like there is agreement that there's some level of importance, super important, super duper important, or maybe sort of important. Excellent. All right. So I think we're on board that there is some agreement. Excellent. So let's kind of hide that one. So so knowing that, the next question is, we talked about, hang on, what social intelligence is. It's that ability to act wisely in human relationships. We've highlighted the value of social intelligence in seniors' care, specifically in safety. So, what about yours? And what about your team's social intelligence? Because here's the thing, like emotional intelligence, social intelligence is growable. It is not a fixed thing. So for those of you who registered before yesterday, and everybody will receive afterwards, you received an assessment. So hopefully you've had a chance to do it. It was like an attachment. It had 3 different assessments. One was from Daniel Goleman. So this you can see, remember how I said that scientists have a little bit of disagreement about what exactly is in social intelligence? So I gave you a bunch of assessments. I mean, yeah, you can get the kind of the gist. So the Goleman assessment looks at these pieces. The other ones, so Tromso, it's done by researchers in Scandinavia, highly validated assessment. And then the reading the minds and the eyes one is intriguing. So these, you can kind of check it. You can do this on your own. You can do this also with your team. Everybody loves to know about themselves. So Kajal, if we can put up another poll. So we're kind of curious about, what's your sense of the presence of social intelligence, your own and others, in your building? Like, how frequently do you see effective social intelligence in action in your building? Whether it's, an infrequent, as in once a year event, and it can be either by you, by your colleagues, by your staff, it can be by residents, it can be by family members. Let's just kind of see. Fascinating. What's great about doing the polls is that you're in your own building, right? You don't necessarily know what's happening in other people's worlds. So this kind of gives you some insight. Oh, this is how it is for other people. So we see, for what we're seeing is that, yes, a couple of organizations or a couple of individuals, it's like a frequent thing. Daily, once a day, great. Weekly, good. Sometimes not so much. There it is. So here's the thing. So I'm just going to stop sharing that. Uh, Social intelligence is a good thing. We know that it keeps people safe. We know that it's going to have you be more productive. That's great that you see it as frequently, or maybe not so great if you don't see it so infrequently. It is growable. It can be a good thing to have more, not because you have to improve yourself. It's just that because it can make all sorts of great things happen. So here's some ideas on how to boost social intelligence. You can decide. I'm just going to kind of offer them because you'll be talking about this in your breakout groups. So the first thing is, listening to Mary Ellen is intriguing. It's not really intriguing, but so there it is. But doing, I mean, that's how we improve on anything. So doing is actually, pick something, and do it either to support your own, expanding your own emotional intelligence, and or supporting your team. The biggest single cause of low social intelligence comes from lack of awareness because we get so preoccupied with our own suffering, right? With our own little worlds. We are blind, one, to our impact on others. And two, sometimes we're oblivious to what's going on with others because our world is so important. I mean, this is part of being human. Social intelligence is understanding your own and others' interior lives and how your actions and others' actions and environments affect us all. So, honing our social intelligence helps us see ourselves as others see us, and it also helps us see others more objectively than just through the lens of our own experience. Because, right, that's kind of the whole piece about social intelligence. So, improving social self awareness is a good idea. Getting to know others. This is super great. So we did, there's a program that was developed out of the USVA, and we've kind of done a Canadian version, and we piloted it in a lower mainland care home. And it's called SCORE, Strengthening a Culture of Respect and Engagement. It really, what it's doing is it's supporting frontline staff in improving their social intelligence. And their favorite part of the program, so we meet monthly for like an hour or something, and then they have huddles. Their favorite part was getting to know each other. Like they loved it. And because when we get to know what other people are about, we get to know their stories, right? It's like all of a sudden, instead of Jane being that pain in the neck person that I hate working with, it's like, oh, Jane's favorite color is purple. Oh, I didn't know Jane had that. So getting to know others makes a huge difference for folks. So it's a great way to do it. So for you, and also to support your team doing that. Picking your moments. So this is great for improving any skills. So you don't have to work on this all the time. Just pick times that are like crucial moments that are going to be super helpful. Whether when people are in conflict, you and or others, that's a great time to practice your social intelligence when you're in meetings, because you as a leader, people read, you have that emotional contagion thing. You have a lot of impact. Or when you're stressed or when other folks are stressed, great opportunity. And then in those situations, those tricky situations, I have some suggestions. The first one, take a breath, just like we did, because that's when your prefrontal cortex can be engaged. That's when you can be thinking. That's when you can start seeing things as opposed to being stuck in your own thoughts. Also, do a soft startup if you're going to have a difficult conversation. Come in soft. It's not about pretending, it's about making it easy for the other person to be present. Be mindful of emotional flooding, your own and for others, because people can't hear. They're not going to be able to effectively communicate. Use eye language. Like, this stuff is not genius. It's just things to keep in mind in those crucial moments. Eye language focusing on the problem, not the person. That was a big one for the SCORE. And I got to tell you, we just wrapped up the pilot project. That's what people said that they wanted to take on. One of the key things is focusing on the problem, not the person. It's a great ground rule. And then, of course, getting your facts straight so that you're not coming in with all of your preconceived notions. So those are some ideas. I am mindful of the time. We really want to get you into the breakout groups. So it's your turn. We're going to send you into breakout groups. If you want to take a picture of these, like with your phone, but this is the only time to be on your phone, take it so that you have them. That would be great. They're probably, Kajal, do we have enough safe care folks to be facilitating?
Yes, we do.
Excellent,
There'll be
great.
8 rooms.
That's great. So we'll have 8 rooms. We'll have a safe care person facilitating the conversation just to keep the conversation on track. They will also take notes so we can, when we debrief in the big group, so you don't have to futz with that. The outcome that we're hoping from the breakout groups is that you will identify one thing, just one thing that you want to experiment with for either expanding your own or supporting your own or your team's social intelligence. And again, for the sake of all things good, for productivity, for well-being, for safety. Super cute. So is it helpful to hear what other people's experiences are? Thumbs up, or you can unmute. Yes, is it good? Is it always a bit of a surprise hearing that other people have similar experiences to you? Anybody else have that? It's like, what? I'm not the only one. Anybody have that? Where it's like, oh, you have that too? Oh, yes, Lisa, you got that. All right, good, good, good. And was anybody in breakout rooms with people that you knew, or was it all new people? Not new people? Christina, was it new people or not new people? New people? Fantastic. Excellent, right? New perspectives. Very good. All right. So is everybody back? Kajal? I can't, sorry, I'm futzing with my thing. Yes, everybody's back? Excellent. All right.
Almost.
So it seems like it was a super interesting conversation. So here's what we're aiming for. Maybe for about 10 minutes or so, we will do a bit of a debrief. So would love to hear. Um, we can either have, I don't know, what should we do? How should we do this? We could have people, we could go through all the questions, but that might be super, kind of boring. So let's just hear some great examples of social intelligence in action. Anybody, go. Go, Mark.
Yeah, someone in my breakout room shared a really lovely story of how their staff was demonstrating social intelligence when there was two residents. They were best friends, and one of them went to the hospital, and the other one was really upset that they were gone, especially at mealtime, because they always sat together. And so something that the staff did was they still set the other place for the other staff member. And over a few days, they slowly took some pieces away. So that transition was longer
Yeah.
as that routine was kind of maintained
Yeah.
to make it less upsetting.
Yeah. That's lovely. Oh, sweet. See, that's the thing about these things. Yes. Any other examples that folks want to share? Oh, Anna, go.
Yeah, we had a great group. We had a lot of really good conversation. One of the things that stood out is there was someone in my group that was reflecting on their leader. So their executive director in their organization knows something about every single employee. So we'll say to them, "Oh, I know you really like, hiking. Did you go hiking this weekend? Tell me what that was like." So she knows something about every single employee, and we'll check, and that's how they kind of do their check-ins. So it builds that rapport
Mm.
so that when somebody does need to go to her with a concern or an issue, they already feel that they have that safe place to bring
Right. Right.
those concerns.
Right. That's fantastic. And I'm curious, how long does it take for the executive director to have that? I wonder. Like,
We
to
didn't
learn that about people.
we didn't really get into that, but I suspect, it's work on their part, but it's
Yeah.
work that is building that foundation to
Yeah.
make things a lot easier down the line.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just thought that was really neat. We had lots of great discussion in our group.
Beautiful.
It was really good.
That's lovely. And I've heard of leaders. One leader I know, one of my favorite leaders, she makes notes about people, like like not in a weird, like, right. She just wants to make sure that she remembers. And what they also do at Christmas is this is crazy. They write personalized cards to every staff member, her and the DOC, between the two of them. It takes time, and people love it. All right, Ken, go.
We had a great group, Lori and Lisa, and they had some great ideas, and very similar to what Anna had mentioned about getting to know people. One part of our conversation talked about how there's a little bit of that tribe mentality that happens at work. You have the day shift, you have the night shift, you have those cultural differences. How do you break those down? And so there's different exercises that they do is just to get to know people, that there's this commonality that we all have. So very similar to what Anna said. And the other thing too was about taking pause and reflecting before just jumping in and getting emotional when a crisis happens, because we're very quick to jump in and solve the problem or lay blame. But when we pause, reflect, get both sides of the story, sometimes we have a better outcome. When I asked what the impact to them would be
Yeah.
if their staff had more social intelligence, they both said it would make our job easier as a leader because we're empowering frontline staff to solve problems on their own, to connect with each other, to build that rapport. And in the end, it will make their jobs easier. And both people in my group said they want to learn more about social intelligence.
Fantastic. Love that. Very exciting. So I'm just going to pop in here, Jen, before you say something. So we did the SCORE program, two very exciting things. So what the executive director and the director of care both said, they gave the example. So they do a monthly schedule. We had this like 8-month program. And so I think it was in May, they said, you know, I didn't have one person ask me when I was doing the schedule, don't put me with this person. Don't. And that was unheard of. So that was thing one. Thing two, um, this was hysterical. At the end, when we were saying, so what are next steps that you want to do? How are you going to keep these ideas alive? What staff said, and the director of care almost fell off her chair. So they have a monthly meeting with their healthcare workers, with their frontline staff, the care aides, and usually it's a lot of information. And often at times it's the care workers complaining about stuff. What the care aides said, this was their initiative. This is what they said they wanted to do. Nobody had suggested this. They said, before we have our monthly meetings, I think we're going to get together and come up with suggestions of how we can address problems. As I said, the director of care almost fell off her chair because right? So yes, making work easier. Jen, go.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. Yeah, I think that I had a great group, and we were from all over BC, and shockingly, maybe unshockingly, we were pretty much saying a lot of what everybody else has said, but really focused on a resident-centered care, being proactive between workers. So prioritizing saying something nice about one of your coworkers, and being more curious and leaning into the process. And certainly, we kind of joined the having more social intelligence for ourselves and the benefit for the workers together. Again, some overlap, so easier speaking the same language, that we could just expedite some of the work if we were all on the same, we're both all speaking the same language. Somebody else mentioned something that they were using called Walk the Cube. I'm not personally familiar with it. Nobody in our team was familiar with it, but I made a note to do a little looky-loo afterwards. So they felt that it's been really helpful for people to get a sense of their own emotions and what they're coming to the situation with. And really, we were just more curious about learning more about social intelligence and how we can improve it in our own work.
Fantastic. And Lisa, before we go to you, I'm going to go to Ashifa, if that's okay.
So in my group, we had a lot of the same kind of things that other groups had. We had one that was really interesting was they had check-ins all the time, and they had a soft start to their check-in, which I thought was really nice because they checked in first with each other. Especially if it had been a long weekend and they hadn't seen each other, they would just kind of do a, how is everybody doing, before they would get into the work stuff.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really nice. And then we had one person who was the owner of a private in-home care, and she doesn't have that. Everybody is on their own. So she was really looking for ideas on how to make the group a little bit more cohesive, which was really interesting. And it actually took up a lot of our time, but it was very interesting and very juicy to get into.
Yeah.
Because that is a bit of a challenge, right?
Yeah.
When everybody is everywhere. So
yeah, we have ideas. That's great. Excellent. And Lisa, let's hear from you.
So we had a great conversation. We talked about social intelligence bringing awareness to everyone's individual thresholds, their what triggers them, and especially external triggers, and noticing that the impact and the trigger for each person can be very different. Like two people can have completely different responses to the same type of scenario, whether it's external stress or family situations or whatever that might be. The team mentioned that they really notice social intelligence works best with teams that have built relationships with each other, and that there's often someone on that team who might have a higher level naturally or through training of social intelligence already, and that sometimes when someone new gets thrown in, like maybe a temporary worker, that it can actually impact how the social intelligence works within that team. Talked about how it seems like common sense to have social intelligence, but quite often you're putting out fires or dealing with whatever is the most immediate situation in front of you, and that although you'd like to sit down and have those meaningful conversations, it doesn't always seem feasible, but that often people just really want to feel to be heard and seen, and a little can go a long way. So people want connection. And as leaders, we often try and go in with a solution instead of just listening to the person. And we get in our own way by trying to put the solution first.
Yes. Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm seeing lots of nodding heads. So it sounds like it was a juicy, fruitful conversation. Yes? Fantastic. Excellent. So I'm mindful of the time. And yes, we're going to have more conversations with leaders. There's going to be lots of other resources, and there's resources now. So you already have a lot to do. We don't want to add to your pile. So Safe Care can help. That's why they're hosting this. They have tons of resources to help you understand where you're at, where you can go, and how you can get there. So this idea of building strong connections amongst people, we know, of course, that it helps reduce risks like violence, instability, enhances overall safety. It just makes work a better place to be. And so the research shows us all that. Safe Care has a couple of programs that can help, that can kind of give you the big picture. The top program, the tailored outreach program with consulting services, is fantastic. It's an acronym TOP for that. It's where Safe Care BC experts give you a sense of your workplace culture and also give you tailored recommendations to foster a safer workplace. So super helpful around specifically the social intelligence piece and how it impacts with all the safety. So that's one idea. The OHS committee members, they are crucial advocates for healthcare workers, including around the social intelligence part, because they need to be able to create a safe space for people to be able to share concerns and also be able to foster that sense, that culture of safety. And that's not something, right, that somebody said, right? Common sense, yeah, sure. And then there's life. So common sense isn't always so common. So Jen from Safe Care BC can help folks learn about the OHS committee's role. And Safe Care has an e-learning course with great tips for running productive OHS meetings. So those are two things. If you found value from today's conversation and you're looking for more support, this isn't the end. So not only are we going to be having more conversations with leaders, we are also, Safe Care is very kindly hosting their, what are we calling it? Safe Care BC Virtual Connect session next week, Thursday, September 26th from 1 to 2. There's going to be two key Safe Care BC staff. So Anna, you can put up your hand, and Jen is going to be there as well. So Anna is the Director of Workplace Health and Safety. Jen is the Manager of Occupational Health and Safety. And Kajal's going to drop the link into the chat for you to be able to do they need to be? I don't think people need to register. I think it's kind of a casual thing, right? So you can just show up. It's a casual space for conversation with leader participants, conversations with leaders participants to drop in, speak with those safety experts about moving these ideas forward, including how Safe Care BC resources can support your success. So there's the link. And I think we'll also make sure that it is in the follow-up email. Woo, looking at the time. So here we go. We are wrapping up. What did I say? If you want to boost your social intelligence, is talking about it going to do it? Is listening to ideas going to do it? No, you got to actually do things, right? If you change nothing, nothing's going to change. This is the thing that we have in the SCORE program, because it's how change happens. So super curious. If everybody can put in the chat, would love to see, what are you taking from today? What are you going to do? Please put it in. Let's see, what's one thing you are taking from today that you will do to either boost your own or support your staff's social intelligence? We heard ideas, right? It's about having a soft startup. It's about maybe pausing before you have a difficult conversation. It's about proactively building relationships. It's about supporting your team to build relationships. It's about being mindful of triggers. Like, there were so many ideas. What was another one? There's the walking the cube. Don't know what that is, but we're going to find out. Let's see. How to build the team, right? Being pausing before getting to being curious, continuing to improve a culture. That's lovely. Very nice. Self-awareness, picking your moments, because it's not an every 24/7 thing. Just make it easy for yourself. Focus on fostering team. Learn something new about the people around me. That's fantastic. Coach my staff to focus. Oh, aren't you fancy, Nicole? That's exactly it. Nice. Start with myself first by showing more gratitude. That's fantastic. Approach issues with a lens of curiosity. Brilliant. Learn my team. Good, good. Read the book. Let the staff get to know each other. Yes. And you know what? Helping the staff get to know each other. It can be like 2 minutes at the start of a meeting. You just pair people up and give them a question. What's something good that's happened to you in the past week? Like really? Or what's something that you appreciate, about working here? Like whatever. It's fantastic. People love it. Soft check-ins, very nice. Very nice. Folks like that idea. That seems to be a good one. Checking with myself. Oh, that's good. Checking in with myself before, right? Taking that breath. Very nice. Understand others. Good. You people, you're so keen. That is so good. Excellent. So I am mindful of the time. If you want to pop things in, that's fantastic. Otherwise, we are going to see you soon. So you remember, Safe Care BC's Virtual Connect next Thursday. You have the link, and we will make sure that we put the link in the follow-up email. And our next conversation with leaders is going to be in a month. It's going to be on a Thursday, so we're just mixing things up a little bit just for some excitement. Thursday, October 17th, from again, same time though, we're going to be talking about what happens when there is a deficit of social intelligence in civility, we know, and then what do you do with that? So stay tuned for that.
For staff to social intelligence building seminar.
Yes. All right. So we will see you all in a month. And you can see the Safe Care experts in a week. All right. Be well all, and we'll be sending out all sorts of good things. Stay tuned. We'll have a 1-page cheat sheet of kind of summary of key things from today, as well as the assessment, as well as links for next week's session, and then also for the one in a month. So many good things. All right. And don't forget about Hearts and Hands. That's it. Don't, especially the one in Nanaimo in 2 weeks. All right. Be well all.